Hello, everybody, and welcome to the PHLY Eagles podcast. It's a playoff Friday. Early in the morning, Zach is fresh and ready to go. He's been up for God knows how long. And we've got the professor in the house, Deniz Selman. We've got a lot to talk about, dive into this matchup for the first time in earnest this week. Professor, how you doing?
I'm doing well. How are you guys?
Doing very well, Zach.
Doing great. Excited for the show. Week's gone by quick.
We've got Goose Wisely to get to. We've got our crystal ball Eagle predictions. We've got lots of data and numbers to talk about, and the matchup here as the Eagles offense looks to see if they can exercise some demons against Todd Bowles for a playoff game in Tampa Bay. We've got the defense. Can they look like, I don't know, one of the 10 worst defenses in the league instead of the worst defense in the league? We'll see about that. But the first time
in league history,
in league history. But Zach, a full day yesterday for the first time this week because it's the Monday game. What's the news coming from the Novacare complex?
Well, first off, in the spirit of taking responsibility, because we've been talking about that, I saw in the chat someone say PHLY tweeted out that this was going to be at 3:30. I will take responsibility for that. We typically have a Friday schedule where we are at that time because this is a Monday game. This is a Thursday in Eagles world. So we have to go with what it would typically be a Thursday schedule for the show. So that's no one at PHLY's fault. That's I'm at PHLY, but that's not anyone else's fault but mine. I will take ownership of that.
Okay. For the one person complaining. Okay.
So the vibe at Novacare this week, it's like, all right, there's a game. It's business. There's nothing we can say. I heard Devontae Smith say yesterday something of the effect of, I have no pep talk for you guys. There's a game this week, right? We'll get out there. We'll talk after the game. Brandon Graham.
It's like they are curious themselves.
Exactly.
Like, I have nothing to say. I want to know. Yeah. I don't want to know what we're going to look like too.
Yeah. There's no reason. There's no explanation. It's not like, all right, we're going to start doing this week, because every card that you can play, they've played the past few weeks and it hasn't worked. So now it's basically they're a professional football team with prideful players who have a playoff game, and the stakes are clear. There's no we'll turn it on next week. It's win or go home, right? So
they just put out the hype video from the Eagles account. It's Jason Kelsey, narrating it and saying like, "Listen, we are not where we want to be. Yeah. Like, we know that we got a lot to do, but we want it. We effing want it." But it's like at this stage, they couldn't go to like Bradley Cooper to hype up the team right now. They got to keep it internal.
And that's where this is going to be. I don't want to speak for you because you're kind of the host here, but that this is going to be a show where we talk about the game. We've talked about big picture a lot.
Yes.
But I'll say that from like a big picture perspective, I think if they win this week, then you might start to see some of those heavier hitters for those hype videos. But this is one, like you said, for the wild card game. It's not like you could bring in your Kevin Hart, your Bradley Cooper.
Do you think if they win this game and they go to San Francisco next week, they'll have Dom do the hype video?
Ooh, that you know what? You're really good at your current job. You'd be great as a marketing guy there too.
The hype videos have never gotten to the 2017 level since that year. And I'm not just saying that because that year worked out. I mean, those hype videos literally made me cry before every playoff game, like 2017. I mean, maybe I was just younger.
Was
and more
it just
emotional.
a moment of time too? Do you think it was?
I don't know what it was. They were so good. There have been decent ones since then.
Yeah. Refresh my memory. What were the 2017?
There was like the Brian Dawkins and just like the way they were edited. It wasn't necessarily even who the narrator was. It was just like the way it was edited, the way that they would, like one of them went back and had Doug Peterson talking about how 7-9 sucks. He's like 7-9 sucks. Like we're not going to be average, and like that was like the way it ended. And it was like the first training camp practice or something of 2017, and he's like, we're not going to be 7-9, we're not going to be average. Like, and just like the way that it was edited and put together, it was just awesome. And then I thought, they've been hit or miss since, and I haven't really seen today's yet. But.
A quick funny aside about a hype video is, and I'm saying this because Fletcher Cox is on our show all the time, so it's a good Fletcher Cox anecdote, is that in 2016. There was a mural with Fletcher Cox and Chuck Manderick and Reggie White and Jeremiah Trotter and Brian Dawkins, like the great defenders. And this was when he had just signed his contract. And so I was doing a big story on Fletcher, and I thought, oh, this is an interesting framing device for the story. And so I asked the Eagles, I would love to see this mural. Where can I go? We can go with the photographer. We can take it. They created the mural just for the video. It's not like a mural that was in Philadelphia
it's not
somewhere.
real.
Yeah, it wasn't like. I mean, it was a real mural, but not like one that's on 9th and Tasker or something like that.
Wait, so it was like the before week 1 hype video.
Yes, exactly.
Okay,
exactly. So let's get to injuries because
Please.
we're going to break down the actual matchups here. But at the players who did not practice, A.J. Brown, Reed Blankenship, important to monitor their status. I can't tell you with confidence either one will be playing this week. I imagine.
Really?
I simply don't know yet. That's what I'm saying. I don't have the confidence to say one way or the other there. I didn't speak to either one of them yesterday. I did not see A.J. Brown.
What is the official designation for A.J.? Like
Knee.
Knee. You really think he's not going to play? There's a chance he doesn't play?
No, I think he's going to play.
You think he's
I think he's going to play. I just don't know. I can't tell you now, oh, don't worry, everything's fine. He's going to play.
Your understanding, though, is it fair to say he is more likely to play than Blankenship?
I don't want to say that either. I don't have enough information on that at the moment. But it's going to be critical to monitor.
But Devontae practiced after not playing in Week 18.
Yes,
and
Devontae and Darius Slay are full participants. They're going to play. The player who popped up on the report is Britton Covey, groin injury, limited. Now, the player who we can talk about here and who I did speak to is Jalen Hurts. Jalen Hurts was a limited participant in practice.
Jalen, his finger hurts.
Yes, his right middle finger. It takes a lot to have the most scrutinized middle finger in Philadelphia.
The official injury report just lists it as right
big line.
finger,
he was waiting for that,
which is very funny.
Yes.
Oh, sorry.
Well,
that's okay.
No, they have to designate for a quarterback. They have to designate the hand.
Oh,
It's
It's funny that it says right finger though. Okay. Well,
yeah. So that's why it will always say right or left, because for a quarterback you have to designate the hand.
Gotcha.
And of course, we all remember when Anthony Harris was on the injury report with hands, both hands.
We all remember that.
The week before or the week after, I think he was on the injury report for groin, and so it was like, whoa, what has Anthony Harris been doing?
Only you put those two things together.
I thought
that was definitely a thing. Yeah. It was very funny.
So Jalen Hurts, who he said yesterday, at practice, by the way, I was there for the beginning portion that we were allowed to attend. They were out on the field. They changed from a walkthrough to a practice. They were in pads, and he did not do much. They had a ball security drill, and he did not do his typical work for the ball security drill. And he had a glove on his right hand. When I spoke to him before practice, Jalen said that he had not thrown the ball yet that week. So it was Thursday. The injury occurred on Sunday. He said that it was not a smart idea for him to go back into the game on Sunday. He said that he couldn't really do much with a popped out finger. He said that it hurt him quite a bit the day after. Like, it hurt more the day after than it did that day. I asked him what is more difficult to do, throwing the ball or handling the ball, right? The gripping. In other words, if you're gripping and ripping it, like they say,
right,
is it harder to grip it or rip it? And he said everything's hard to do with a popped out middle finger or with a popped out finger. So this is, now I've said this on the show. I try to be transparent. I don't know Jalen well. There's some players I know much better. But I've covered Jalen
purposely. That is how he wants it.
Yeah, I've covered Jalen for 3 years now. I'm there in that seat just about every Wednesday in every post game, and I can say that he's especially vague and coy about injuries. Does not like to talk about injuries. He was more forthcoming yesterday than he typically is for Jalen standards. So there's one of two ways to look at it.
Yeah, what do you make of that?
This is either, from my perspective, this is either really bothering him, and he's kind of establishing that now, because who knows what could happen on Monday night. Maybe,
but he has had things that are bothering him in the past, so why would he be establishing that now?
So either it's going to affect it. It could affect him to the point that
he's getting ahead of it, you think?
He's getting ahead of it.
Okay.
Or there could be myth making here. Like Jalen does like to build up this narrative, right? He might be uninterested in the media and considering us rat boys, and he's very interested in his image and crafting that, right? and it's not beyond him to create this, this idea that he was dealing with something, and he gutted it out, and they had this big win, and it's almost like the Jordan flu game, right?
Which he already tried to do in Seattle.
Seattle did not quite work.
He was definitely very sick.
Yeah, but we talked about the playoff game in Tampa a few years ago, coming out with the walking boot after the game.
Right.
There have been times where after the fact, he's talked about how crazy the injury was, right? So, yeah, or maybe he just decided yesterday was the day to be forthcoming. Who knows? But this is certainly one to monitor.
Let me ask you this.
Mm-hmm.
Last week on this show, you talked about how you were a little bit disappointed in thinking back about how he could have stood up for Sirianni after the Seattle game, right?
Mm-hmm.
Now we're talking about this week. Has your, not opinion, but like your perspective of Jalen as like the face of the team changed a little bit over the second half of the season? It feels like there's a little bit of movement here on your end.
No, I wouldn't say movement in that regard. I think Jalen has, like, I respect his toughness, his character, his work ethic. Like, I think all of that is true. I think that sometimes when you're winning, that can be perceived a certain way. And when you're losing, it's the Bull Durham quote that I reference all the time, where he had fungus in his shower shoes, and they say you win 20 in the show, and they call it colorful. When when you're in the minors, though, you're just a slob, right? And I said this with Carson Wentz at the time too. When things are going well, you're like type A and exacting, and when things aren't going well, then you're like standoffish,
distant,
distant, right? So the framing device often depends on if you're winning and or if you're losing. So I'm simply saying that.
And do you think that is a thing that's going on in the building right now?
Yeah, I mean, I think that the eyes are on the quarterback at all times, and how he handles things at all times is watched, it's analyzed, it's scrutinized. And so when things aren't going well, if how you operate and what you say and what you do and what you don't say and what you don't do is interpreted. And as we said with AJ Brown last week, by the way, that in the absence of your explanation for things, then people form their own narratives and interpretations.
Well, it's like the thing he said yesterday about, sort of pointedly saying, like, you don't know what you don't know to the media, which is true. Of course that is true. Yeah. Like, we are at a huge information deficit. But if you are going to stand up there every week and not talk about these things and not give information, then you can't really complain about people filling in the narrative where they think they can, right? Sure. Like, it's one or the other.
Exactly.
Yeah. If I can add something from a fan perspective, I mean, you guys are in the media, you're objective analysts. Like, I'm not. I'm a fan. Like, I want him to say things that I think will help the team. And I've been disappointed in the way that he hasn't come out and been more of the public leader and face of the team. I mean, I really thought that in this situation that he would feel the need to do that. And I know it's not in his personality to come out and be rah-rah, but for AJ Brown to come out and say, like, that was me and Jalen doing that, and Sirianni, like, made himself look like a fool for that or whatever, and Jalen to never have done that. We talked about that before. And then, with McLean's thing, like, the you don't know what you don't know. I mean, at some point, I'd like him to come out a little bit more assertively and make it seem like, look, like, things aren't going well right now, but, like, we're going to get it right. And, like, make it seem like I'm on top of this. The guys are following me and you guys are going to see, kind of thing.
Interesting.
Instead of, like, I don't know if I can throw the ball, like, it's like you're not creating confidence for a team that already doesn't have a lot of confidence right now. When you say, we'll see how it is, we'll see how it goes, we're going to take it day by day. I'll see if I can put my glove on my finger to throw the ball today. I mean, like, that's not a great starting point for getting ready for a playoff game, and it doesn't give the fans confidence. And this fan base, and I don't know how much they care about the fans, but this fan base does not need, like, to wonder if the quarterback's going to be able to throw the ball like right now.
As Slay said, good thing they're on the road.
Yeah. That was a little unfair. He did say before that, just to be fair, he did say before that like, I wish we were at home because the fans deserve it and things like that. Yeah.
The thing I'll say, and that's great perspective for me, because I tend to kind of perceive all of these fairly even keeled. And I put it this way because I know those who respond to something on Twitter are not representative of the entire fan base. But I'll defer to those people who consume the content and the chat to say this. There have been a few examples recently. I think of the McLean thing yesterday that you referenced, the you don't know what you don't know, the Seattle game when he talked about like the dictionary, right? There have been times when those same interactions in the past would have been met by fans with, oh, he's dunking on the media, right? And now it's kind of like, come on, Jalen, you know?
Right.
So I don't want to say that's representative of the fan base, but it is. Speaking to what I'm saying is that when you're winning, your actions and your words interpreted a different way sometimes than when you're losing. Yeah,
and there are things that he doesn't want to say. Like A.J. Brown said that I didn't want to say anything because I didn't want to be negative. Yeah. But then I realized all my teammates have to speak for me, and so I felt like I should speak. Well, you're the franchise quarterback, right. And when you don't say anything, it's not just your teammates. It's like the media itself just starts like saying things on your behalf, right? And it's like you can if you say anything interesting during those 7 minutes you're up there, like that will be the news.
Well, he has the same power that Sirianni does of taking responsibility for things and covering for other people.
Right.
Like,
I think he has more
too.
power.
Right.
Exactly.
His job's not in jeopardy.
His personality also makes it easier for him. I mean, we're at the point now where Sirianni is using like weird offensive stats and saying we're in the top 10 in this and we're in the top 10 in that to defend himself in a press conference before a playoff game.
Yeah, what did you make of that, Zach?
Oh.
I think Nick's
like the Super Bowl thing. He's
I think Nick's putting out his
resume,
there, like not in terms of. I think he's trying to tell the fan base and maybe the team, like, hey,
and maybe the league,
but I think this is in particular. Oh, you're complaining about the offense? This is a top 10 offense in every stat that we look at, and that's what I said the other day when you and I were in Studio B, and I said that I think internally the way they look at the offense might be different than externally. And
on the coaching staff.
So so that's where you're probably right. Is that I can't speak for Jeffrey and Howie on that, but I think the coaching staff views it differently. The coaching staff, as you pointed out, is looking at third down, red zone. They'll tell you the only difference between this year and last year are the turnovers are up, which we can say is not a sticky stat, and then they'll talk about the explosive plays, and they will reference the explosive plays as the way the defense is playing them. So,
I mean, look, you can nitpick at the stats. Exactly. You can say, well, look, they're 12th in passing DVOA on offense, 12th. With A.J. Brown and Devontae Smith and Dallas Goedert and this offensive line that everyone still agrees is the best offensive line in football, and Jalen Hurts, and you're only 12th in passing DVOA, and that's a disappointment. I mean, you can't just point to like this is top 10 and that's top 10. Everything's barely top 10. Yeah. Last year it was like top 3.
Sure. It's a sliding scale,
and not for nothing. Passing offense is the most important of the four things, right? By a wide margin.
Right.
And so for them be underperforming there is hugely significant.
And also, not to get nerdy about the way distributions work, but I know Shield talks about this a lot too. Like, there's a bigger difference between 3rd and 10th than than people might think. Right. Like usually there are some outliers at the top, and you were one of those last year. When you're 10th, you're usually closer to being 16th than you are to being exactly. I mean, it's a kind of normal distribution. Sure. You're kind of near that normal part of it, the crowded part of it, and so that's not where we wanted this offense to be. Now, having said that, I've been defending the offense, but that's mostly in context of where the defense is, which is a unacceptable, unwatchable product right now.
Anything else from yesterday at the complex before we get into the offense and this matchup in particular?
Not specific to the game itself. There's big picture stuff that I imagine we'll tackle, but no, I think this is a good time to get deep into this game.
All right. Well, before we do that, we've got our playoff watch party coming on Monday night. For the game. Where are we going to be? Well, it's going to be at Wicked Wulf, and it's presented by Smooth Tea because I think there are a lot of people who feel like they probably need a drink to watch the Eagles team at this state of the season. Hate to burst your bubble, but if you are still settling for spiked seltzers that leave you bloated and unsatisfied in 2024, you are settling for less than you deserve. Maybe that's how the Eagles feel. Smooth Tea is in questionable ingredients and bad aftertastes. Those are out. Smooth Tea packs a premium vodka punch with real tea flavors that go down easy. Unlike other canned cocktails, smooth tea is free of artificial flavors and sweeteners, creating the perfect blend of top-shelf quality Kiki vodka and real black tea brewed to perfection. No bubbles, no BS, just 100 calories, 5% alcohol, 3 grams of sugar, and gluten-free goodness without the guilt or the gut. Smooth tea is here to give your taste buds the indulgence they've been craving with quality and ingredients you can count on every single time. If you want more of the tea, follow @officialsmoothtea and @KikiVodka on Instagram to see what all the hype is about and stay up to date on events, new flavors, and all things smooth. Once again, we will be live with Smooth Tea for our Eagles watch party on Monday night at Wicked Wulf on Chestnut Street. Me and Jamie Lynch in the house.
And Julia.
Visit, I don't know, maybe Julia wants the night off. Who knows? Visit drinksmoothtea.com to purchase or locate a retailer near you. Home delivery is restricted to Pennsylvania residents only. Must be 21 or older to purchase and consume. Please enjoy responsibly.
And then speaking about taste buds, what I'm craving right now is a Brooklyn-style bagel that I don't need to go to Brooklyn to get because it's made in Philly. And I'm talking about huge bagels. That's what you get with Bagels & Co. They're the biggest bagels in Philly. There's a large variety. So it's not just big in size, it's big in variety. 15 to 20 different types that you can choose from daily. They have seasonal bagels. And also, I don't want a dry bagel, right? I like my bagel toasted, but then I want different types of cream cheeses on it. And they
I don't agree that I always want my bagel toasted. If you got a fresh bagel, that's way better than a toasted bagel.
Yeah, I like it extra toasted. You know, I want it a little dark.
You just want toast.
That is an insane take. Don't like the top bagel places like refuse to toast their bagels?
That's a big thing in like the classic New York bagel.
Let's
do not toast the bagel.
Let's get to that in 30 seconds because I just want to finish telling you about Bagels
Might
&
be
Co.
more of an
Give me the fresh bagel. The move to do when you go to bagel places, ask what is the most recently out of the oven. That's what I want. Give me the
when you go to
bagel.
Bagels & Co., make sure you do that. And by the way, if you're wondering where Bagels & Co. are, just go to www.bagelsandco.com/store locator. And you can get those bagels toasted or untoasted with 30 different flavors of cream cheese. And they're an affordable brand. So you're not spending your entire budget on these bagels and cream cheese. They also have really good coffee. It's not like $7 coffee. This is the type of coffee that fits within your budget as well.
Working man's coffee.
For the best Brooklyn-style bagels made right here in Philly, head to www.thebagelsandco.com/store locator to find the closest Bagels & Co. near you.
There are places that'll run you out of the shop if you ask for toasted.
Yeah. Is that right? Is that like asking for ketchup on a steak or something? I didn't realize that.
In some places,
yeah.
It's akin to that. Yeah.
I gotta say, as someone who has Montreal blood in him, Montreal bagels are, I love Bagels & Co., but Montreal bagels are what I grew up with. And I always had it growing up toasted.
Montreal sang.
What's that?
That's the French word for blood.
I always had it toasted. I always had my bagels toasted growing up.
Yeah, a toasted bagel is like you have bought, like Thomas bagels from the supermarket, and you're trying to spruce it up. Like,
I think that's the idea.
If you're going to
when you're getting them fresh.
to a bagel place,
I always get it toasted. That's interesting.
Wow.
Okay,
I'm sorry. Workers have been judging you for all these years.
Yeah.
Here comes Toast Boy.
Now that's gonna be on my mind.
He keeps asking.
Seriously.
You know what's interesting because it doesn't track with. I would have expected you to go to the bagel place, and be like, "What's good here? What do you recommend?" They would not recommend the toast.
I asked. I was at a bagel shop the other day, and I asked which one they recommended, and they said the sesame seed bagel, and I'm like, well, I couldn't pick that.
I had a sesame. Yeah.
I'm asking of all your eclectic flavors, which I'm trying to live dangerously here, right?
Probably tells you that they didn't really want to indulge the question.
Probably not. Yeah.
Early in the morning, don't ask me what I want. I'm just here to do my job, man.
Yeah, it was that kind of conversation. It was that kind of conversation. Yeah. Right. At Dunkin' Donuts are very joking.
All right. I feel bad. I don't want to tell you how to live your life, but
no, you don't. I'm always trying to be better. So but the problem is I don't want to offend the bagel shop, but I also have my proclivities. But that said, I can evolve. I just feel I always like my bagels toasted. So I'll try an untoasted bagel next time.
Okay. All right. Speaking of toast, the Eagles'
good
offense
transition.
against the blitz has been mostly toast, and we know that Todd Bowles is going to bring that blitz. I think they are the third highest blitz rate team on defense in the league after the Eagles played Wink Martindale last week and pretended as if they had never heard about the concept of a blitz. Deniz, I talked about the full circle here and exercising the demons. The first year of Nick Sirianni, they go to Tampa Bay, and the whole story is that Todd Bowles has completely flummoxed that offense, which is what happened. They have a chance to maybe get back on that. They did it in week 3. What is your level of confidence that they can do that this week?
Ooh, yeah. First of all, I really enjoyed the episode yesterday with Sheil.
Thank you. I did too.
And Sheil kind of delegated this job of talking about the blitz to me.
Yeah, he knew that this was on.
Yeah, he knew I had it. He knew I had it already. So I fully agree with Sheil that the coaching staff has let Jalen Hurts down, like in terms of that discussion of whether it be the blitz or anything else. I think the film confirms that far more often than it disputes it. But yeah, Sheil said he'd have me talk about the blitz stuff, so let's do it. Big picture, the Eagles were blitzed 39% of the time this year, which is the second most in the league.
Yep.
48% on third downs, which was the most in the league.
And also the highest of big 6 or more pass rushers, right?
Yes, like zero blitzes.
High,
right, exactly. And by the way, that's an interesting difference between Todd Bowles and Wink Martindale that we should get into in a second. I heard Fran Duffy on his podcast this week say that the Eagles were 11th in success rate. He has access to fancier stats than we do, than I do at least. 37% success rate, which was 11th in the league. Which is surprising. You wouldn't think it would be that high. But there have been some obvious shortcomings on film, right? So what are the reasons? I think it's a combination of things, and it's obviously a combination of things, right? But I'm gonna kind of like I don't know, rank them, I guess.
Okay.
The lack of hot routes and site adjustments that everyone talks about, I think is number one. I mean, it really is. Running 4 verticals against a cover 0 blitz when just one guy running an in-breaker is going to be wide open. You can just see it on film. It's like watching on film, it's always easy to be like, run that way. Right. It's like I'm watching it on slow motion. But it just seems like it's happened enough now that when there's no middle of field safety against a cover 0, any kind of in-breaker is going to come open. And if that's built into your play, that's probably going to be better than, throwing the over-shoulder ball to Devontae kind of thing. The second one,
the Arizona game
against Arizona on the 3rd and 5, yeah. And there have been so many other instances of that. The second one I've heard talked about a little bit less, but just watching.
I do wonder. I'm sorry to cut you off.
Yeah.
The first one.
Yeah.
It seems so obvious, right? That if we're trying to figure out why they're not doing that,
right?
Is there a case that it's like Jalen doesn't want this?
I mean, maybe, yeah.
I don't know.
It befuddles me
because it seems so easy.
And to the topic that it's so easy. As a quick 15-second aside, my son's getting really into Madden now, and it's like the most simple thing to do.
Made Michael Dunn 99 overall.
Yes, exactly. But it's the most simple thing to do is to run a hot route, or to change the route depending on what the coverage is. So if it's something that a 6-year-old can do playing Madden. Then
Nick Sirianni and Brian Johnson have seen blitzes before.
Yeah,
but there's a difference between hot route and quick game, right? Yeah. So going back to the week 3 game, and I know we're going to talk about it a little bit more. In week 3, a lot of times the Eagles were able to beat the blitz by just throwing a slant, which was already part of the plan for the play. It's not necessarily the tight end has to understand it's a blitz and change his route. You could also call routes that are quicker against on plays where you anticipate blitz. And I think that's been lacking a little bit. Running 4 verts on a 3rd down where you're likely to get a blitz.
Against Wink Martindale.
Yeah, it's what do you,
Now, Kelsey said after the game they had answers that they just couldn't get into.
They couldn't get to, right? And part of that, I think, is the protection as well. Okay. So, and I know Kelsey's taken blame for this. So this was my second one, and I think it kind of links to, and Sirianni also said, sometimes we have hot routes. Sometimes when you have a 7-man protection, you can't really have that. And that makes sense too. It's you're expecting the protection to hold up, and then you have to let the routes run out, because there you're maybe looking for a bigger play. So both the calls and the execution of the pass protection. So I've been noting mentally for the past several weeks, and then I went back and actually looked through my notes, play-by-play notes of this. The film notes do support this. There have been some bad protection calls that didn't give a chance for there to not be an unblocked guy. And when that happens, like in a 7-man protection, right? You've got 7 guys blocking against 4 or 5, and a guy's still coming unblocked. It's going to be really hard to be successful on that play. Like it's even if a guy does like stop hot or whatever, they have have enough guys in coverage that you're not going to be able to do that. And then when the quarterback scrambles to the side where the routes aren't, everyone's like, why is he scrambling that way? And it's like, well, the guy came from this direction and all that. And Todd Bowles, in particular, is very good at bringing the blitzer from the side that's going to do that. And we can talk about that in a second. With Kelce, it's happened so rarely. Like it happened on one play in the Super Bowl, the play before the 4th and 3, the famous 4th and 3 punt, where he slid the protection the wrong side. The guy came unblocked off the edge. Jalen had to scramble. There was an open guy, but he had to throw it away. And that was so rare last year. I remember like thinking, that was in the 4th quarter of the Super Bowl, and I was thinking like, of all the times for this to happen, right? And this year it hasn't been that rare, right? It's been happening more. And Jordan Mailata's on WIP a lot, like he does like the Players Lounge and stuff like
Mondays,
that.
Yep.
And one of the things that does when he's on there for so long is he ends up saying a little bit more than he normally would maybe to the media. And he said this week that defenses know that Kelce's the smartest guy on the field and have been giving them what he called crazy looks to fool him. And Kelce's also admitted that, I get the protection call wrong sometimes. And like, last year against the Giants, when they were doing a lot of these exchange blitzes where 2 guys are dropping out and 3 guys are coming in and all that, I was marveling at how Kelce always seemed to get it right. It's like, how did they know that, And this year against that same Giants team, that wasn't the case. There were clear plays in this last game where the slide was to the wrong side and you had, 3 guys blocking 2 guys and then you had 2 guys trying to block 4 guys, So that's been part of it. And then the third one is
also a part of that where there are times when the call is correct. They are going max protect and Jalen is still bailing early.
Yes, exactly. That's the third one.
Okay.
So he's being careless, which way he bails, not keeping his eyes downfield. Sometimes he has the choice of which way to bail because the rusher's coming in his face, and there's like a 3-level stretch concept to one side, meaning all the routes are going to the right and he just bails to the left, or all the routes are going to the left and he bails to the right. And then it's a throwaway.
If I can chime in real quick regarding bailing, I spoke to a coach one time who said, when we were talking about different things against the blitz, one thing he liked to do was get his quarterback on the move, right? Especially if the blitz is coming in, get the quarterback out on the
have the play design be that way.
Exactly. Is this Jalen bailing, or do you see the play design going?
No. It's him bailing, and I wish there was more of him on the move. There's been like one game since Sirianni's been here. It was against Denver. What year was the game
First
in Denver? Where there was a lot of like designed moving pocket stuff.
Yeah, okay.
And that was against Fangio. And I don't really know why. Like it was in that game, like they decided to do that, but I thought it worked really well. And I thought maybe it would be
offensive game for them.
Yeah, it was an incredible first half on offense.
Like Jalen's best passing game of that season.
I called him Brady-esque during the game, and people were laughing at me because at the time, like he wasn't considered like a top quarterback. So like I was thinking like, oh, this is a good way to handle some of these pressures. And there's been so little of that. I mean, and I think that one of the things that this team has been guilty of, and I think these things are all related to each other. Why don't you have hot routes? Well, because we have Jason Kelce and he's gonna set up the protection perfectly. Why don't you have this? Well, because we have Jalen Hurts and he's gonna be able to move and make the play himself. Why don't you have that? Well, because we have AJ Brown and he's gonna win like one-on-one. Everyone is trusting someone else to take care of it. You know what I mean? It's like, and the coaches aren't considering the possibility that one of their superheroes isn't going to get it right. Like Kelce might mess it up. Jalen might mess it up. AJ Brown might not catch it. Like, make it easier. You know what I mean?
Yeah, think about how much you could help, and how much better those superheroes would be if they had a little bit of your help.
That's exactly it. And I think, and I've felt that. Like Brian Johnson says, we have to give everybody the tools and the answers. Yep. But it's like, a lot of times I feel like the answers for the coaches are, well, we have better players and they can handle it. And Kelce's always been able to handle this. And Jalen's been able to be a hero in these situations. But we're seeing that's not consistently happening.
And you just think about it philosophically from like a time allocation standpoint. Like if you were spreading your turkeys on how I can spend time, like if I sort of let AJ be AJ and Jason be Jason and Jalen do what he needs to do, then I can work on some of these other things. But I'm not seeing that necessarily manifest either. And so like, why don't you spend more time on maximizing what you could get from these tentpole players, these foundational players.
Yeah, no, that's exactly right. That's exactly right. And we've been talking about the schematic deficiencies of this offense for weeks now, and it's related to that. Yeah.
Okay. Now, how about from a Bucs defense perspective? What should we be expecting here?
Yeah. So overall, Tampa Bay 49% blitz, third highest, and week 3 against the Eagles was their highest blitz rate of the year. Not that surprising. That it's like the most blitz team and then the most blitzing team. Now,
and as you talked about, the Bulls, the famous thing from that playoff matchup was they were bringing all that pressure from his right to force him to his left.
That's right. So first of all, Tampa Bay, I mean, they're very good at blitzing everybody, right? Mm-hmm. Like both safeties, the corners will blitz, the linebackers will blitz. And one of the things they do, so in that game, there were 42 dropbacks, including the penalties. This is from my own charting, so this might not match. Week 3 game, yeah, week 3 game. There were 16 true blitzes, and by true blitzes, I mean either a linebacker or a defensive back is blitzing, okay? And it's more than 4 total blitzing. Okay. So there were 16 of those. There were 9 other plays where you had a D-back or a linebacker blitzing, but then with linemen dropping out, it ended up being a 4-man rush.
Okay.
Those don't count as blitzes on some of the charting things.
Number, by the way, the number that I've been going off from that game is 23 total blitzes.
23 total blitzes. Okay, yeah. So there were 16 that I counted, and then there were 7 blitzes where it was just the 5 defensive linemen rushing. Right. Okay. Those are probably the 23. Those are the 23 you have.
Yes.
I would say that those 7 where the linemen are rushing are pretty uninteresting.
Okay.
Like in terms of how to handle it, the like the Eagles' offensive line can handle that. Like everyone knows who they're blocking. That's not a problem. I would be more interested in the 9 exchanges, and so those are the ones I went back and watched more carefully. On those 9 exchanges, they were all zone coverages. So anytime Bulls does that, it's a zone coverage behind it. Those other blitzes, by the way, 9 zone, 7 man. So like when it's just one adding in, you don't know if it's going to be man or zone just from the fact that they're blitzing. But when they do the exchange, it's almost always zone because you don't want Vita Vea covering the running back and man, right? And
otherwise, Vita Vea, you do Hassan Reddick.
Vita Vea will drop. Yeah. Well, yeah. Well, we can talk about the Eagles version of this later. But those 9 exchanges, on 7 of the 9, the added rusher, so it was usually the slot corner in that game, Christian Izzy and the rookie, or sometimes it was a linebacker or a safety, came from Jalen's right side. So 7 of the 9 is coming from the right side, and then the guy is dropping into the other side. And there were mixed results on those. Like on one of them, there was a 3rd and 5 when Dallas Goedert was open on an over route. Jalen bailed early to his left. The routes were all going to the right, and it ended up being a throwaway and a punt. But later, on the 34-yard touchdown to OZ, very similar exchange. It was a cover 3 exchange where they blitzed Levante David, and they dropped one of the defensive linemen into coverage, and Jalen hung in the pocket, trusted the protection, stepped up. The 3-level stretch was covered. The backside dig from OZ turned into a touchdown. So
one of the best plays of the year.
It really was. So it was mixed. It was mixed results overall in that game. I thought the offense handled the blitz okay through a combination of the quick game concepts and also running the ball. Right, like heavy run. There were a lot of runs that hit well against blitzes in that game as well.
That is my other question to you here, because I think you said that Lane Johnson did he talk yesterday?
He did not talk yesterday.
Okay.
Yeah,
but the idea that the Eagles think they can at least win this game on the line of scrimmage, right? Yeah. Do you feel like this is DeAndre Swift coming off of not having to play in Week 18 with the illness? This is like a ride DeAndre Swift game, especially if A.J. Brown is banged up and maybe even not going to play?
Certainly could be. I mean, that Week 3 game, super efficient for the Eagles offense, 52% success rate in the run game, which is very high. That's on 42 runs.
I think that was Swift's last 100-yard game this year, right?
That might have been.
Yeah.
Might have been. Yeah. Heavy 12 and 13 personnel. So there were Eagles were only 55% in 11 personnel that game, 70% for the season. 36 snaps in heavy personnel. Threw the ball on almost half of those. So they were very good run-pass balance out of the heavy personnel. Tampa Bay will match heavy personnel with base. So they'll have their 5-2-4 base personnel out there. And the Eagles were doing a good job attacking that in the passing game. But running game, it was just a really good game for the Eagles. I mean, started with a pistol 12 personnel outside run to kind of set the tone that we're going to go outside. You have to worry about outside as well. But if you remember the DeAndre Swift hurdling Antoine Winfield play, I mean, that's just an inside zone run where the offensive line is just dominating inside, against those big D tackles. So it was just a really impressive.
It's interesting because one of the few notes I have here is the Bucs defense, 4th in the league in success rate against 12 personnel, 28th in success rate against 11 personnel. So interesting that the Eagles had so much success going against that in week 3.
Yeah, I guess I didn't know that stat, but that's how it was that game. They will. I mean, they do match 12 with base all the time. So I'm interested what the run pass splits on that are. But yeah, in that game the Eagles were really good, and the run game was pretty simple. I mean, there are some games where the run game is super fancy. That game was mostly inside zone, some zone read. There was a really good 29-yard run late in the game on counter, but otherwise it was mostly zone stuff, and it worked really well.
All right. Well,
I'd expect heavy personnel for sure. Eagles have been heavy personnel of late as well. Last 2 or 3 games has been a lot more 12 and 13 once they realize there's no viable third wide receiver on the team. Yeah,
exactly. Anything else on the offense before we switch sides?
On the offense, in terms of dealing with the blitz in that game, we talked about how it was a lot of quick game and stuff. One of the things that was comforting in that game, one of the ways the Eagles tried to handle the blitz going back to the 2021 game, and also a lot of games this year, much to the chagrin of fans, are those bubble screens and tunnel screens, right? The 2021 playoff game was like a farce of like bubble, tunnel, and they all failed, right? It was just a disaster.
I think Aikman was killing them that game, right?
Oh,
yeah, I remember that.
I listened, as a true fan, I listened to Merrill, but I listened to Aikman after, and yeah, it was really bad. Was it Aikman though? Well, yeah, it might have been. Yeah, it might have been. Yeah. So in that week 3 game, 3 of the first 6 dropbacks were screens that got 1, 8, and 3 yards, and I was like, oh no, this is going to be another one of these. But then they did a really good job of just not going to it again. There were no other screens the whole game until the very last drive, when there was actually a first down on a bubble screen in that drive that if you recall, the 9-minute, 22-second 4-minute drill at the end. Yep.
All right. Before we go to the defense, let's talk quickly about FOCO, because FOCO. You know about FOCO. It's a leading manufacturer of sports and entertainment merchandise with a product line that includes apparel, accessories, toys, collectibles, novelty items, and more. The best officially licensed gear for all sports and fandoms. It's football and tailgating season. It's still the football season, people. And they've got overalls. They've got hoodies. They've got hats. They've got sunglasses, bags, everything you need for a game. FOCO has hooked PHLY up and provided awesome pieces for our sets. And they always have your back for Philly sports. They've got ours, too. Get the best gear around by using the link in our description. For all non-presale items, use the promo code PHLY10 for 10% off.
And then let me tell you about Rocket Money, because if you have subscriptions you're trying to forget about, or you paid twice and you didn't realize it, or it's tricky and time-consuming to cancel the subscription, Rocket Money will do it for you. Rocket Money is a personal finance app that finds and cancels your unwanted subscription, monitors your spending, and helps lower your bills. You can see all your subscriptions in one place, and if there's something you don't want, cancel it with a tap. You never have to get on the phone with customer service. They'll even try to get you a refund for the last couple of months of wasted money and negotiate to lower your bills for you by up to 20%. All you have to do is take a picture of your bill, and Rocket Money takes care of the rest. Rocket Money has over 5 million users and has helped save its members an average of $720 a year, with over $500 million in canceled subscriptions. Stop wasting money on things you don't use. Cancel your unwanted subscriptions by going to rocketmoney.com/PHLY. That's rocketmoney.com/PHLY. rocketmoney.com/PHLY.
All right. Avert your eyes or close your ears if you want to not listen to this conversation about the fledgling Eagles defense. But Deniz, how are we feeling?
Well, let's go. Let's start with the good. Week 3 in Tampa was the Eagles' best defensive performance of the year.
You think so?
Yeah, I think so.
Okay.
Yeah, it was just so dominant. By EPA per drive, it was the best. By series conversion rate, which is something I refer to a lot.
A couple drops.
Yeah. Maybe like given the strength of the opponent, maybe Miami was more impressive. But just in terms of like just dominating the opponent,
sure.
like
if I can cut you off real quick on just one thing we didn't say at the top, but it will help with the baseline for this conversation. Baker Mayfield did not practice yesterday. Has ankle ribs injury. I'd expect him to play, but he's clearly dealing with something. Tristan Wirfs did not practice yesterday because of an illness.
I jokingly tweeted yesterday that Kyle Trask versus Matt Patricia might be a fair fight.
No.
But I quickly added that I was being overly generous to Patricia.
Yeah, I mean, Drew Lock and Tyrod Taylor. Yeah, okay.
Right. So Tampa Bay
Tyrod.
only had 12 first downs in the whole game out of 20 opportunities. That 60% conversion rate is very low. They only had 4 successful run plays the whole game out of 16. The Eagles' interior defensive line in particular was dominant. And this was back when Hassan Reddick wasn't comfortable with his,
Right.
he played 31 snaps and didn't have a single statistic in the game.
Yep.
Josh Sweat didn't do a whole lot either. It was all about the interior defensive line just dominating.
And were they playing more even fronts or odd fronts? Were they playing?
It was definitely more even fronts.
Okay.
And one of the we got to get to the 5-man front thing. It is driving me crazy. Like there's this weird narrative that the Eagles can't stop the run out of the 4-man front as if they've tried and failed. I'll get to that in a second. In that game, Jalen Carter was awesome.
Yep.
He played 21 snaps and did the following things. He essentially created a sack for Marlon Tuipulotu on a TT stunt where he just like chucked the center off of Tuipulotu. Tuipulotu got an easy sack as a result. He destroyed a double team to get a sack of his own that he half sack with Fletch. Very next play, he violently forced a fumble. Rashad White caught a pass and he came and violently forced a fumble. That was right after the interception by the Eagles, and so that immediately got the ball back. Later, he held on to a double team for long enough that Nicholas Morrow was able to penetrate the backfield and get a safety. I mean, just think about how long you'd have to hold up on that double team. And then there were several other plays where I wrote down his name as well for getting a pressure, forcing an early throw, etc. He was only out there for 21 snaps. I just listed 4 of them.
Yep.
And then there were other ones as well. So he was awesome that game. And watching him against the Giants in last week's film, and I did watch last week's film, I only watched the first half, it was just so disheartening to see him getting thrown to the ground by Ben Bredesen. And he just looks like he's not, I don't know if he's not in, far be it from me to talk about whether someone else is in shape.
It's been a long season too. Yeah.
Yeah, it just looks tired, a little bit less interested.
It's just not the same player right now.
He really isn't. And it sucks. It really sucks. I wasn't buying the Jordan Davis hype at the beginning of the year. I think he had 2 good plays in week 2 and everyone thought oh, he's here. But Jalen Carter, I was buying all the hype, and I still think he's going to be great. But it's been sad to see that he hasn't been the same player. And then just a quick note on that game, and I think this will be key in this game as well. Hopefully, Tampa Bay was 5 for 10 on third down. The 5 they converted were 3 yards or shorter, all 5 of them, and the 5 they couldn't convert were all 7 yards or longer. So in that game, it was all about getting to third and long. And being able to get off the field. And for the season, Tampa Bay has been very bad on early downs. They're 30th in success rate on first down, 28th on second down, but then they jump all the way up to 9th on late downs. So it's going to be strength on weakness on late downs there when Tampa has the ball.
Now on the 5-man fronts of it.
Yes.
Intellectually, I can understand the tendency to think, okay, our linebackers stink. Our defensive line is supposed to be good. We have this personnel. Let's have more of those guys on the field instead of the linebackers or the safeties or the nickels who are injured.
Right.
However, that also means that you are forcing yourself most of the time that one of your 2 best pass rushers is not going to be rushing the passer in passing situations, and you're going to have 3 defensive tackles rushing.
Right.
And I think you can tell us that the stats are bearing out that it has not been successful.
Yeah, look, Shaq Barrett drops into coverage, right? For Tampa, they have their defensive ends drop, but that's because they're gaining some schematic advantage from the way that the blitz is impacting the quarterback, and as a whole, the defense is better for it. When the Eagles do it, it looks so awful. I mean, Hassan Reddick dropping, he's so uncomfortable. He doesn't know what to do. Yeah, exactly. And it's driving me crazy to keep hearing this myth that they're playing these fronts because they can't stop the run out of 4-man fronts. That's just false. In the last 3 games, I went back and counted, the Eagles have allowed 12 explosive runs by their definition, 10 yards or more. Only 2 of them were against the 4-man fronts.
Good point.
They've allowed 10 explosive runs out of the 5-man fronts. It's not like their 5-man fronts are stopping the run and the 4-man fronts aren't. And that wasn't a sample size thing. They still play enough 4-man fronts that the samples are pretty even there in terms of the total number of plays. And so Kevin Byard blitzing from 7 yards deep and Josh Sweat dropping back to cover the middle zone of a 3-3 fire zone is just like you're putting everybody in such a bad situation. They run a slant flat, which the Giants run more than any other team. And it completely confuses everybody. Like Josh Sweat chases the running back and it turns into like a whatever number of yard completion it was. And we're seeing this kind of thing happening all the time. I've been trying to tell, like, what is Patricia changing about this defense? Like, what are the actual schematic things he's changing? And all of the changes seem to be things that are just making the players play more slowly.
Yes.
You know what I mean? Like the safety rotations throughout the year, not to get like too in the weeds about like the safety rotations and stuff, but like just real basic thing. The safety rotations throughout the year have almost always been that the safety rotates down and covers the flat. And one of the things that Patricia does more is he's having the safety rotate straight down and have one of the corners go into the flat, especially when it's in dime personnel. And last week there was a play where Reed Blankenship just let 2 vertical routes run right by him because he hasn't been in this position where he was the safety rotating down and it turned into a 26-yard completion over his head because Eli Ricks was covering 2 guys. Like one of the guys was wide open. And the reason that this is happening, I think, is because he's not comfortable doing it. He hasn't practiced it. It wasn't installed like earlier in the season. I mean, he's used to being able to go, you know, head like downhill to the flat. That's what I have. And now he's being asked to not only rotate down, but also make sure that there isn't a vertical route because then you have to go back up. And these are all things that other defenses do well around the league, but they've been doing it all year. Like they've been trained in doing it. And I feel like just adding these wrinkles this late in the season is clearly not working.
It's funny you say that, by the way, because excuse me, one of the knocks on the Patriots offense last year, and it seems odd to talk about the Eagles defensive coordinator and say one of the knocks on the Patriots offense last year, but was that it became complicated for the sake of complication and not to like create the schematic advantage, but just like to look at this wrinkle that was put in there. And it's almost like that's happening with this Eagles defense. You talked about the safety rotation. I'm curious what both you guys think, because this isn't just a schematic thing. This is a personnel thing this weekend. If Blankenship doesn't play, do you move Avonte Maddox over to safety because Bradley Roby can play the slot? Do you go with a guy like Tristan McCollum or Mekhi Garner? You know, they're down basically to one safety, which is Kevin Byard, because Sidney Brown's on IR and Reed Blankenship's banged up right now.
You're being generous when you say one.
My inclination is if they're definitely without Blankenship, I probably would play Avonte Maddox there. But he has not looked good the last 2 weeks either.
Mm-hmm. In the slot, yeah.
Now, it's not like, the thing is, it's not like, because this is the Patricia defense now, it's not like you can make the case that, well, you know, Tristan McCollum has been practicing as a safety in this defense since training camp. Like, he should be able to play faster. That's not the case now, right? Because this is ostensibly a new defense. I guess I would rather go down with Avonte Maddox on the field and Bradley Roby on the field, but I don't know. Did you have any sense of McCollum from last week?
I mean, I didn't watch the second half film back, so I gave, that was my gift to myself this week. I was going to ask you guys what you thought would happen at corner with Slay coming back too. Like, do you think Ricks and Ringo are just going to the bench? Like, you know, because what had been happening was Bradbury was playing left corner, and then Ringo and Ricks were rotating at right corner, and then in the dime package, Ringo and Ricks were outside, and Bradbury and Maddox were both inside. And I'm curious how that's going to change when Slay comes back. I would imagine that Bradbury will still be inside in dime, and Slay and one of the young guys will be on the outside. But in regular downs, I'm guessing it'll just be the veterans. Right?
My strong educated assumption here is that you'll see Bradbury inside on third downs.
In dime.
In dime.
Week 3, by the way, it was Slay and Job on the outside and Bradbury playing inside the whole game.
I mean, maybe just fast track Bradbury to safety for this game. Let the guys on the outside play. Maybe that's the best use of your personnel.
I mean, he'd probably learn it faster than anyone else. But
smart guy.
One of the things that I was hoping the Sidney Brown injury would do, at least, is stop from having so many different packages. Yeah. Because, like Sidney Brown was kind of the tool that Patricia was using to switch from the big nickel to the regular nickel to the big penny, like back into the dime and all that. But as soon as Sidney Brown went out, Bradley Roby just took over that role. Like they were going from Bradley Roby in the nickel on early downs to Maddox on late downs. So Bradley Roby suddenly became the third safety in a sense in terms of the way that they were using Sidney Brown. I'm guessing that's going to continue in this game, where they did use a decent amount of big nickel against Tampa Bay, just because Tampa Bay does use 12 personnel a bunch. I think it'll be some Roby on early downs and Maddox on later downs, especially if they want to use Maddox some at safety.
Yeah, we'll see, I guess. Anything else on the Bucs offense to keep an eye on?
They throw deep. Something that, Baker Mayfield might not have the reputation for. 79 20-plus air yard attempts on the season, led the league. Had more 20-plus air yard attempts than any other quarterback in the league. And his ADOT is 7th in the league and all that. So they're gonna throw the ball. The last week it seemed like every third down was like a. It didn't really work last week against Carolina, but every third down seemed to be like a long bomb to Mike Evans.
Well, that's I've been asking around about what's different between the Eagles' defense now and in Week 3, and an answer I've been getting is, well, the Bucs offense has changed, and one of the things that I hear is that they're just giving Mike Evans more chances downfield, basically. Like they're giving him those 50-50 balls. He had 60 yards in that game against the Eagles. He did not have the standout game that he typically has. He had a real nice catch in the second
5
half.
for 60,
like 40 something of those yards were on that last drive.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So, but when I heard I said, how are they different? And one thing I've been hearing is they'll just throw the ball up to Evans and say, here's the 6'5", 230-pound receiver. He's going to make a play on the ball.
Yeah, kind of McVay, Shanahan school, right? Canales, the offensive coordinator. So a lot of play action on early downs, out of heavy personnel. Fran and Cosell talked about this earlier in the week on their pod, and that is something you see on the film. I mean, like they do a lot of the 12 personnel bootleg type stuff, and Mayfield seems to be comfortable enough doing that stuff. Eagles handled it well Week 3. We'll see. I mean, like it was Morrow and Cunningham in that game as well. So we'll see how it goes.
And then the other thing that I heard is that they're a team that doesn't necessarily abandon the run, right? Like they're not particularly good. They're not a particularly good running team. Actually, I have not the DVOA, but the overall number here. They're 32 in the league against the run, but like Rachaad White, he gets the ball a lot.
They run it too much. I mean, they're 28th DVOA, 32nd by success rate.
Yes.
32% success rate. That's awful.
Yeah.
And they continue to do it. They're of the school of thought that like if we keep doing it, the play action will work better. Yeah.
All right, Zach, let's get into Goose Wisely.
Let's do it.
Now you are down 2 as we head into the playoffs. Tell me if you think this is fair.
Just making up the rules.
Scoring wise. Here we go. Yeah. First round of the playoffs counts for 1.5. Second round of the playoff counts for 2. Third round, 2.5. Super Bowl 3.
Wow.
And if they lose, are we still doing Goose? Are we doing it with other games next weekend?
No.
So the season. So this is only the Eagles season.
Yes.
So if the Eagles lose, I lost.
Zach.
Correct.
Okay. Fair enough.
Zach. Let me help you out here. Last year, Swooper was definitely 2 in the first playoff game.
Yes, but they were
and then it went up to. Okay, all right.
I'm going by round. I'm open to a conversation, but
no, that's fine. Let's
Okay.
let's do 1.5.
okay.
We'll give incentive for if there's a show next week about the Eagles win. So okay.
All right.
See, if you made it 2, it would be exciting because you could have the tiebreaker be point differential. And then Zach would have to win by 4 or something to have a chance. Wouldn't that be? I think that would be better
You guys
for
are
the
both counting
spectacle.
on the Eagles losing this
Zach,
game.
I think you're down by 4 in the
Point
total
difference,
points. Yeah.
I mean, I won't do my predictions yet, but look,
I'm okay with that.
Okay.
I think we should do it that way.
So 2
Not
points.
to interject. In
So
your
2 points. That's fine with me.
sacred game.
Okay, and then are we doing? So is every round 2, or
No, it's got to go up by 1 every.
But by 0.5?
Well, it's not going to matter, right? Because if it
Yeah, no, because it'll be
like the tiebreaker anyway.
Yeah. All right.
Okay.
Let's say 2.
Fair enough.
All right. I'll go first. A.J. Brown and Devontae Smith's combined touches is more than the snaps played by Olamide Zaccheaus, Quez Watkins, and Grant Calcaterra. Or Julio Jones scores a touchdown.
So this is counting on AJ probably not playing. I would imagine because those snaps are higher otherwise. Let's go with Julio Jones touchdown.
Was Julio in Tampa long enough to care about this game as a revenge game?
He's an Alabama guy. He cares about every game.
Okay.
Okay. Similarly, I have a Devontae AJ one here for you. Devontae or AJ Brown has at least 100 yards, or Mike Evans or Chris Godwin has at least 100 yards. So this is not and, this is or.
I'm going to say Devontae Smith or AJ Brown has at least 100 yards. Which one would you have gone with?
I probably would have gone with Evans or Godwin. But
Okay.
If
I do think the Eagles are going
looking
to run the ball more this week.
If fans are looking for a villain, Chris Godwin's from around here, right?
It's from Delaware. Yeah, Middletown, I believe.
But he said yesterday that he was rooting for the Bucs in the Rondé Barber game.
Oh.
Because he was on the Bucs
bandwagon then?
in his little league. Yeah.
Okay.
I guess that's not really reason to make him a villain.
I love how you're watching the Bucs media.
Oh, got to be all over. It's playoff week. Yeah.
All right, Zach.
1.5 speed on those.
Next for you, Baker Mayfield throws for more yards than Jalen Hurts does, or Rachaad White rushes for more yards than DeAndre Swift does.
Good one here, because like I just said, they kind of commit to the run. Rachaad White has over 1,000 yards, but I think under 4 yards a carry. I'm gonna go with Swift rushing yards here.
Which one are you taking? It's not.
So what I'm saying is I think Swift's gonna have more rushing yards.
So you're taking Mayfield out throws Jalen.
No, because you have White has more rushing yards than Swift. So I think Swift's gonna have more rushing yards than White. So
that means
I will go
taking
with
Baker throws for more yards.
Okay,
than
okay,
Jalen
all right.
Hurts.
I see what you're saying here. Okay.
Which of those two things is more likely?
Yeah, I understand. Mayfield passing yards. Yeah, I would say Mayfield having more passing yards than Jalen.
Okay.
I am up here. Which one would you have gone with?
I think I would have taken that too.
Okay. The Eagles give up 28 or more points, or the Eagles give up 14 or fewer points.
The Eagles give up 28 or more points.
So you're expecting a shootout here.
And that's going to be my golden goose.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, okay. I'm not betting on this defense to hold anybody under 14 points.
Just as we talked about a few times this week, the Bucs scored 9 total points against Carolina last week. Carolina has a decent defense. They're bad on offense. But they were held to 3 field goals against Carolina. Their scoring this season, points per game, is 20.5 points, which is 20th in the NFL.
Yeah, watch the film of that game. There's just a lot of run for 3, run for 2, and then incomplete bomb, kind of stuff. It just is.
They thought they could just. They thought they
don't
win.
know.
All right, Zach. Hassan Reddick and Josh Sweat, their snaps in coverage is greater than the snaps played by Tristan McCollum on defense, or the 2 edge rushers combined for at least 2 sacks.
Ooh. I'm going to go with, so this is a hard one here because I don't know the Blankenship situation here, and they could always go with Maddox. I got to go with Reddick, Sweat snaps in coverage because these edge rushers haven't given me the 2+ is a big number here.
Yeah.
And if it was 1.5 maybe, I would have gone with that because I can see 1.5 sacks. But yeah, I'm going to go with the snaps in coverage.
Okay.
Just a note on McCollum that's interesting. Watching the Tampa Bay defense, they do an interesting thing where on late downs, they actually bring in Zion McCollum, Tristan's twin, who is a corner normally. Mm-hmm. They've been bringing him in to play safety on late downs. So Ryan Neal comes out of the game and Zion McCollum comes on. And
Ryan Neal, former Eagle.
That's right. That's their passing downs look involves Zion McCollum as a safety. So that's the way they've been using him.
Yeah, big game for the McCollum family. I might have had a conversation about that. So
okay.
Here you go. Marcus Mariota plays a snap, or Kyle Trask plays a snap. 2 injured quarterbacks.
I'm going to take Marcus Mariota plays a snap. Okay.
That's probably what I would have gone with the 2.
My last one for you. The Eagles lose, or either a pylon gets knocked over in the field during a play, or a kick hits the upright or the crossbar.
So I don't know what the data is for the pylon or the kicks, but I know this is a tight point spread here, so I'm going to go with Eagles lose.
Wow, hater.
Professor Selman, can you help me with that one?
With the pylon?
Yeah.
Bo's more of the pylon guy. I'm more of the logo guy. Like, I would have had a logo one. Because that logo at midfield is so big.
I remember that from the last game.
Yeah, the ball hitting the logo is always like a fun
Is there
one.
like a greater than 45%
18-yard
chance?
wide logo in the middle of the field? Very distracting.
Is there a greater than 45% chance that the ball hits that a pylon gets knocked over or the ball hits the upright or crossbar?
No.
Okay, so then I like I like that pick here.
All right.
So this one here, this last one, because this is Goose Wisely here. This is presuming an Eagles win. Okay, so those are the only options for this hitting.
Okay.
Okay, because I as I learned from Professor Selman earlier this year that some of my submissions didn't hit at all.
Okay.
Okay, so this one has a chance of not hitting at all. But the Eagles play in Dallas or Detroit next week, or the Eagles play in San Francisco next week.
Okay, so will either the
There is
Lions...
a fourth possibility.
Yes, we discussed that. The Eagles could have a home game.
Rams come here,
Yeah, but we can't have three options here. So.
Right. So will only one of the Packers or Rams win? Basically, is the
here. How about we add the Eagles home game in this as well?
Okay, so basically, they play in San Francisco. They win and play in San Francisco, or they win and don't.
Yes, exactly.
Okay. Well, if that's the case, then I'm going to go for one of the upsets. I feel like the combined odds of one of those two underdogs winning is greater than the odds of neither of them winning. So I'll take that one.
Yeah,
Okay.
and that's true, like gambling market wise
Right,
as well. Yeah.
Okay. Upset. No. Do you know which one you want?
I think that the odds of me for me hitting is probably highest for the Eagles losing, because that's like a
Okay.
yeah.
So the pylon is a golden goose. That'll be very exciting when that happens in the game. All right.
The Lions have won one playoff game in the last 65 years. I went back and looked pre-Super Bowl era as well, and that is,
Depressing.
it's just unbelievable. Yeah,
Slay's looking forward to watching this game on Saturday night or Sunday. I'm sorry, Sunday night. I'm still on.
Is he rooting for them?
He has a real good quote about how the script makers really worked this one out. So I'll put that on Twitter later today.
Okay. Now keep in mind, because this is a Monday game, this is like a Friday, Thursday in the complex. That means that we won't have the full injury report stuff until tomorrow. So make sure that you're following Zach on Twitter and on allphly.com. We'll have our email back and forth this weekend. But before we do that, Zach, it's time for our Crystal Ball Deagle predictions. How you feeling?
How am I feeling? So I've been accused of being an Eagles apologist throughout the week, and I can't explain what has gone on with this team. It's beyond explanation. This is ugly. This is bad. There's a lot of people at fault for this, but I think there's a lot more we'll find out. We'll find out after the season. That said, I think the Eagles are a better football team than the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, despite what recent evidence would suggest. I think they have more talent. I think that I saw these two teams play in week 3. I understand that's a long time ago. And the Eagles are favored to win. Okay? So I don't think it's going to be a finesse-oriented game. I think this is going to be a game where the Eagles rely on their lines of scrimmage. I think they'll run the ball a little bit more. I don't know how Jalen's going to look throwing the ball. That's a big variable. I don't know if A.J. Brown's going to play. That's a big variable. So perhaps my prediction is different in our email exchange. But right now for the show, this isn't a matter of... I actually think pandering right now would be predicting them to lose, because that seems to be the sentiment of the fan base right now. But I need to give you what I honestly think. And I honestly think the Eagles are a better football team than the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. So I think this is going to be an ugly game. And I think the Eagles are going to escape with a victory. I am going with 23-16. Eagles win.
Ooh. Bigger than the 3. I thought they were gonna win by 4. This is a big one for you.
You know what? Let's actually
let's go. Stick with it.
No, let's go 21-17. Okay.
Wow.
21-17.
Okay. Before we get to my prediction, keep in mind we've got new merch on the PHLY locker. So make sure you check all that out. Look at that. Some fantastic hoodies just in time for hoodie season. All that good stuff. And new hats as well. You can look like Zach, because if you want to be fashionable, that's what you need to do. All right. You look at it. You compare the lineups, you compare the personnel. It's hard to think that the Eagles are going to lose this game, just on paper. Vegas is predicting them to win, or at least setting it up that way. I can't believe in this team right now. And I think in my mind, it sort of goes the way of the Cardinals game, in that I think they come out better than they have looked the past couple weeks. I think they've got a solid game plan together, but I feel like once a little bit of adversity hits this team, I think there's a part of them that's like, put us out of our misery. And I think in the second half, they're going to, like the Bucs are going to come back, and they're going to have a nice feel-good victory. Baker Mayfield's, doing pistol shots around, and unfortunately, the Eagles head into the offseason. I'm sorry to say. I think it's better for us if we have longer content, if we can get some more playoff stuff. So that would be nice. But I think as Jamie and I are at Wicked Wulf drinking down our smooth tea, people are like throwing their smooth tea at the screen, because this team is, I think, setting us up for even more disappointment. I'm sorry to say. So I'm going to say the Bucs win this game 28. So I get my Goose wisely here to 27.
Wow. So take the over.
Yeah.
The over's 42.5, I believe. Over.
Okay.
If I can say two quick things. One, follow up from last week. There's some hope for the defense, because my cousin Defna responded to the clip you guys put out of me talking about the Turkish translation of the novelization of Dead Poet Society. She said it was one of the best books she's read.
Okay.
And it was.
Did you like my caption, by the way?
Yeah, it was fantastic.
Okay.
I was wondering if that was you, actually. I was forgot to ask. Very good. Technically, that
I figured it.
There's a
couldn't be
technicality.
technically correct,
Yeah, there's a technicality. But she said it was the only book she remembers from those years that she read.
Okay.
That she didn't remember any of the other books she read that summer.
I feel like that may be how we feel about this.
Said it was very good. She actually commented on the YouTube video as well.
Oh, I didn't notice that.
Said that it was a very good book. So, so maybe the Turkish translation can be good. When the players need
this defense is going to be memorable.
She is a native Turkish speaker, so like I said, the players don't know Turkish, so there's still a bit of an issue. But yeah, so that's one thing. The other thing, from a fan perspective,
yes,
I agree with Bo, what he said Wednesday, that this could be the best chance of winning the Super Bowl in the next 3 to 4 years. That's always true in the playoffs. This team has to win 4 games to win the Super Bowl right now. I know that sounds crazy and it seems like impossible, right? But it's only 4 games. Like it's not like, the team doesn't have to like redefine,
right?
It doesn't have to go on this incredible comprehensive run.
16 quarters.
You could get some weird luck and end up playing, not playing San Francisco next week, things like that. All of that you can end up not playing San Francisco at all. Like they could lose. All these things could happen. But the thing is, like, if the team's wondering, like, why isn't there playoff atmosphere? Like, why don't the fans seem to care about this game? Like, give us a reason to care, right? Like, look like you care. And when you watch this team the last couple of weeks on the field, like Keely Ringo gets a sack. It's like a rookie getting a sack on a corner blitz, which I weirdly predicted on the show. And nobody celebrates with him. Like no one goes and even high fives him. I mean, the team doesn't look like they're together and care about each other. The 2 plays that annoyed me the most on offense last week were the fumble. The guy recovers the fumble. He's lying on the ground, and no one went to tag him. No one went to tag him. It's McFadden. He's like a slow linebacker. He's not even planning on returning the fumble. He lies on the ground for 2 seconds. He gets
up and looks around like, oh, wow.
Gets up,
okay.
and he actually got fumble return yards on the play because no one tagged him down. And then one that annoyed me even more, Jalen Hurts gets cheap shotted.
I saw that.
Cheap shotted on the quarterback sneak, where Okereke just flies over the pile and cheap shots him. No one says anything to the guy. No one gets in his face. Like Jalen's kind of shaking his head, like, what the hell was that? and no one got in the guy's face. And a team that's together, like when your franchise quarterback takes a shot like that on a play like that,
Sure.
I mean, like Jason Peters would have body slammed the guy.
Fight the whole team.
Right? And so, like, when you have a team that doesn't look like they care on the field,
That's a great point.
it's really hard to care. And like, as like I'm the biggest Eagles fan I know, and I'm having trouble caring about this, right? Like, of course I care about it. Of course I'm doing I'm going through all the motions and everything else. But like when that game starts, normally my biggest like thing that I'm looking for when a game starts is the other team. Like, what are they doing? Are they playing, are they going to play this way? Are they going to play that way? Like, how are we going to adjust to that? Because I know my team. And I'm going into this game not knowing my team. Like, I have a better sense of what Tampa Bay is going to do. They're going to bring Zion McCollum on and do this and play this way and do this. I have a much better sense of who they are than of what my own team is that I've been watching every single week. And I don't understand how this happened. I don't understand how it got here this quick. But like you have to show us that you're worth our emotional investment. And that hasn't been happening. And one of the things that we love as fans is when the guys look like they like each other and they're playing for each other. And it's this myth of like we don't actually know these people, right? Like it's like we're rooting for them as part of this societal ritual. But that ritual only works if you give us reason to believe in this thing, right? And that hasn't been there, and it has to arrive quick, and it can't just be like a disinterested looking win against a kind of average team. It has to look like not only did you win, but that you were happy that you won.
I think it's beautifully said, and I think it is the great question about this team. Like, is that a thing that you can even turn on, or is it already past time for that and too late? And my supposition is that it probably is.
If I can ask you the fan perspective real quick on two scenarios. One, if they win this game, is everyone back? And two, when I say everyone back, like are the fans back on this team? And two, if they lose this game, do you want Sirianni out?
I like Sirianni. I mean, I don't want him out. Like my first answer to that question is no. I don't want him out. I mean, there will be plenty of time to talk about that.
Sure.
It almost seems absurd given the record and everything else. Is everybody back? I can't speak for other people. If the Eagles are going into a divisional playoff game, like there's only 8 teams left.
Sure.
And maybe people's attitudes will change as like the playoffs start tomorrow. Like just seeing the other games and being like, oh, the Eagles are in this. Like, like technically there will be 9 teams left and the Eagles will be one of them, right? Going into Monday night. Maybe there will be a little bit more of a like, and again, if the team looks good, if they look happy that they won and all that, then I don't know. I mean, going into Dallas for a divisional game, like, are we really not going to get excited about that? Like how could that be? But I don't know, and it's crazy that I don't know. But I don't know.
All right. Well, we don't know what we don't know. That'll do it for this episode of the PHLY
Good kicker. I like that.
Eagles podcast. Again, stay tuned to Zach's Twitter and allphly.com for what happens over the course of the next couple days. And then we will be at Wicked Wulf on Monday night for the kickoff show. Jamie Lynch and myself with Zach live from Bananas Foster headquarters.
That's my dessert for the week.
And then we've got the post-game show afterwards to talk about everything that happens in this wild card round game for the Eagles that seems like a referendum on the team and the coach and everything that is going to happen moving forward. So for Deniz and Julia and Zach, we thank you for listening. Oh, by the way, very quickly, people were asking what happened with the ping pong match yesterday. I got no shade to throw. I did get the win, but he's got a very good forehand, played very well. Good game, but I did take the win for just for the record.
Thanks for getting that in there.
Thank you for everybody for listening and watching. We will talk to you on Monday night. And as always, we love you.
We all silly like the mayor.